Welcome back, everyone, to The Deep Dive. Today, we're really diving into something special. Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. And let me tell you, this book is packed with ideas. It's basically like, hey, fast forward on the entire history of humankind.
I mean, it really is. Harari takes us on this incredible journey,
Yeah.
from the very beginnings of humans to today. And he even tries to look into the future. We're talking evolution of human societies. And really, it all comes down to this. How did we get from point A to point B?
Exactly. And he just cuts straight to the chase. One of his biggest arguments is about how Homo sapiens ended up ruling the planet. And he says it's all because we're the only ones who can believe in stuff that isn't actually real outside of our own minds. Think about it, like gods, nations, even money or human rights. These are all ideas. So how does that even work? Explain it to me.
So what's really interesting is that Harari says that these shared myths, as he calls them, they aren't weaknesses, but they're our secret weapon. It's this very human thing that lets us work together on a huge scale, building these massive empires and complicated systems that animals can't even imagine. He's saying our imagination is what makes us strong.
Whoa, okay, that's mind-blowing. So it's not about being stronger or faster than other animals, but about these shared beliefs and social structures that we build.
Exactly. You couldn't convince a chimp to give you a banana by promising a better life after they die, right? But humans, we thrive on these stories.
Which leads us to those huge turning points in human history. Harari has some strong opinions about those too, like he calls the agricultural revolution, this is a direct quote, history's biggest fraud. Wait, isn't agriculture supposed to be this great leap forward, like the start of civilization as we know it?
Right. You'd think so. But he says it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, yeah, agriculture meant we could stay in one place, grow crops, build cities, all that. But it also meant way longer working hours, a boring diet, and new diseases popping up. Hunter-gatherers, he thinks, might have actually had a better deal in some ways. More freedom, more variety in their food, even more free time.
Wow. Makes you think twice about those picture-perfect stories of early farmers,
Yeah.
right? And since we're already talking about challenging what we think we know, let's talk about money for a second. Harari says money is just another one of those shared myths.
Oh, it's the perfect example. Because think about it. What even is money? It's a piece of paper or even just numbers on a screen these days. It doesn't have any real value on its own. But we've all decided to believe in it, haven't we?
And that's how we've built these massive global economies. That's incredible. It shows you just how powerful these intangible things we've created can be.
It really does. It all comes back to the power of stories and believing in something together. These things might not be tangible, but they have a huge influence on how we live our lives.
It really makes you wonder, what other shared myths are we all buying into without even realizing it? We've covered gods, nations, money, and Harari doesn't avoid the more difficult parts of our history either. He says that the way we treat animals, especially in factory farms, could be the worst crime ever.
It's a powerful thing to say. And it makes you think about how disconnected we've become from the natural world.
And that disconnect becomes even more important when Harari looks ahead to the future, right?
Absolutely. We're not just shaping the environment anymore, we're on the verge of shaping ourselves.
Shaping ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're getting to sci-fi territory.
Yeah.
What's he talking about? Like, are we going to start designing babies in a lab or something?
Well, he takes it even further than that. Harari believes that with things like bioengineering and artificial intelligence, we're about to completely change what it even means to be human. He's saying that sapiens, us as we know ourselves, could be on our way out.
Whoa, hold on. Out. Like extinct. Is he saying humans are going to disappear?
Not extinct like the dinosaurs, no. But he suggests that we might be getting close to a time when we go beyond the limits of what we are now. He even says this in the book. History began when humans invented gods, and will end when humans become gods.
Whoa, okay. That's a lot to take in. Becoming gods. Does he explain what he even means by that?
Well, he talks about the potential for things like genetic engineering, where we could actually control our own evolution, basically design ourselves. And then there's AI, artificial intelligence, which might even become smarter than us one day.
Okay, so maybe not extinction. More
Yeah.
like Sapiens 2.0. A total upgrade.
Yeah, you could say that. But what Harari's saying is that these possibilities, while pretty amazing to think about, they also come with some really complicated ethical questions. We're talking about having the power to completely change the definition of life itself.
It's exciting and scary at the same time. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't it possible Harari is getting a little carried away? A bit dramatic? I mean, People have been predicting the end of the world forever, right?
Sure, I get where you're coming from, but even if he's only half right, even if just a small part of what he's saying actually happens, we're still talking about changes unlike anything humanity has ever faced before, and these changes are happening right now, not in some far-off future.
I mean, think about how much technology has already changed our lives, even just in the last couple of decades. Social media, smartphones, the internet, it's crazy.
Exactly. And Harari is saying we're just getting started. We could be talking about changing our biology, merging with machines, even finding a way to live forever digitally. It's a future that's full of potential, but also completely unpredictable.
It makes you wonder, with all this power, all this control over our own evolution, what are we even working towards? Are we just chasing progress for the sake of it?
That's a question that Harari really digs into in the book. He says that this constant need for progress, for more, for better, it can actually be a trap
It's a trap. What do you mean?
because it never really ends. There's always a new goal, a new invention, something else to achieve. And in all that striving, we forget about the things that really matter, like connection, purpose, happiness.
That's so true. It's like that saying, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
Exactly. And as a society, we do the same thing. We're so busy focusing on the next big thing that we forget to ask ourselves if it's actually making our lives better or if it has any real purpose other than just more.
He's got a point. We have more technology than ever, but are we any happier as a species?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So if more stuff isn't the answer, then what is? What should we be aiming for?
That's the big question, right? And Harari, he doesn't pretend to have it all figured out. He's not saying, hey, here's the perfect future, here's how we fix everything.
Which honestly can be a little frustrating. Sometimes you just want someone to tell you everything's going to be all right.
I hear you. But instead of easy answers, he gives us something way more valuable. He makes us face these huge, important questions head on. It's like he's challenging us to wake up and build the future we want consciously.
So it's less about hoping for the best and more about making choices that lead to the future we want.
Exactly. And that starts with really getting to know our own history. Harari says that to make a better future, we need to understand how we got here. The good, the bad, and yeah, the ugly parts too.
And we've definitely had our fair share of ugly moments in history, that's for sure. But this idea of humans becoming gods,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. Are we really talking about becoming immortal, all-powerful, like something straight out of Greek mythology?
Well, Harari uses this really interesting metaphor to describe this next chapter in human history. He says we're like apprentice gods. We have all this power, but we're still kind of clueless about how to use it responsibly.
Like that, apprentice gods. It means we still have a lot to learn, but it also makes you think, what if we mess it all up? We're playing with some pretty powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And he says the stakes have never been higher. With things like AI and bioengineering, we could change what life itself means. But the big question is, what are we going to create with all this power?
Man, it's exciting and scary all at the same time. So for our listeners who are just picking up this book, what's the one big takeaway you hope they walk away with?
I think if there's one big message in Sapiens, it's that the future isn't set in stone. It's not already decided. We are literally creating it with every choice we make, every story we tell ourselves, every new technology we invent.
That's powerful. Reminds me of that quote from the book, the most important thing to know about history is that it's going to be surprised. That kind of sums up everything Harari's saying, doesn't it?
For sure. He wants us to stay curious, to keep asking questions, and to never stop questioning everything we think we know about ourselves, where we come from, and where we're going.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, is one of those books that really sticks with you.
Couldn't agree more. If you've ever wondered about humanity and where we're headed, it's a must-read.
And a huge thank you to you for joining us on this journey today. You've given us a lot to think about.
It's been a pleasure, really. Until next time.
That's all for this deep dive. Remember, the future is ours to create. What story will you tell? Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.